Okay, today we're going to start on the bottom of Lamed Zayin, Lamed Bais. So it's 37b. If it's in an art scroll, it's probably the last one, the last page of whatever it is. Ashkichinu Shmuel l'Talmidi de Rav. So Shmuel found the students of Rav on your chart. You have Rav and Shmuel of the same generation. So which students exactly was it? It doesn't tell us, but it could have been Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Nachman. And I'm sorry, the opposite. Rav Nachman was by Shmuel. It was Rav Huna or Rav Kahana or Rabbi Yehuda. So Shmuel finds them, and he says like this: Amar lahu, Mayam Rav Misukenes. What does Rav say regarding a misukenes, an animal that was ill, that was about to die? Amrulei, they said to him, Hachi Amar Rav, so says Rav, the following: Dua, if it moves, it makes a sound, an animal sound. Vitilarei, and it releases its excrement. The kishkasha it wiggles its ear. Harisa pirchus. That's considered a convulsion. And what we're saying is that if it makes a convulsion during the shechita, or at the end of the shechita, or after the shechita, which we'll see, so that means that it was alive by the shechita. Okay. Amar lahu. So he responds to them. Shmuel says, "It's trichle la'aba la'azuzayuni." Abba requires it to wiggle its ear. Apparently, that's a large sign of life, which Shmuel considers not required for an animal that's sick. I think just a little flutter should be enough. Here, he needs to wiggle his ear. That's like takes intensity to get the ear to. Most people can't do that. So, okay. And Shmuel continues, he says, Shani Eimer Kol She'enei Dvarim Shamisa Oisa. Anything that it's not something that would have happened because it died. In other words, it needs to happen because of the Shechita. We're on top of 38a.
So he's saying any movement.
Any movement that an animal that died wouldn't have done, or that the dying wouldn't have done, it needs to be something that would be caused because of Shechita specifically. What are those things that the death causes? Amar Rav Hanan l'didim mefarshli minei demar Shmuel. Rav Hanan says that Shmuel explained it to me. I don't have Rav Hanan on the chart. All right. What is it? What are the things that the death causes? So the example would be like this: if the arm is already bent, but it stretches it out, then that's davar shamisa isa. That's something that could be caused by the death. So it's not a sign that it was alive during the shechita. It could be it was just it died. It wasn't the shechita that caused it. However, pshuta, if it was stretched out, the kafafa, and it bent it, that's dvarim she'ein hamisai. So that's something that the death would not have caused, and it must be that the animal was alive during the shechita. I don't know exactly the science of how. I mean, you have two muscles, the biceps and the triceps, and they work in the same.
They're antagonistic.
They work in the same.
One flexes, one
right.
extends.
So
Well, actually, not the biceps and triceps, because triceps goes up there too.
So what would move my arm inward like this? Something has to be.
Biceps and I think brachioradialis.
Out.
Means that
This is flexing.
That's still alive.
Yeah, but there has to be a contraction of a muscle
Yes,
that pulls
absolutely.
But that has to be alive.
There has to be. So if when it moves in, that's because it was alive, and the shechita is what caused that. So we're looking at a sick animal, and we know that it's dead now. It was sick before.
Out,
So if we don't know if the convulsion was because it died or because of the shechita. It could be it died before the shechita because it was sick, or at the shechita because it was sick. Okay. So we made a distinction here between bending in and bending out. Gemara asks, "My kamashman, what's your chiddush? You want to tell me something that we know already?" Tanina, that was taught in the Mishnah. They always taught us in yeshiva that. How do you know if it's a Mishnah or a Brisa? So they said if it has two nuns, then it's a Mishnah. So Tanina is a Mishnah. Tana is a Brisa. Tanya is a Brisa, only one nun. And then Tanu Rabbanan. It's a tough one. It's only Tanu. Tanu is, the Rabbanan has two nuns in it anyway. But Tanu, so Tanina was taught in the Mishnah. Behema Daka, a small animal. Shapashta Yada, that it's stretched out, V'leyachsira Psula, and it doesn't return it, that's a puzzle. That's a puzzle. That could be that it died. That could be that it died on its own. She'ina ela hitzas nefesh, because that's only the life going out. But we can be medayik. Ha-hechzira, but if it does return it, go ahead. This is the good one. So then it's ksheira. So it's exactly what Rav Anan said he heard from Shmuel. Lamed Ches. The Gemara says, "Ime masnisen." If it would have been from our Mishnah, if in other words, if Rav Anan didn't explain to us what Shmuel told him, Havamina, then I just would have said, Dafka. You have to add in the word Haisa. The bottom it says, Shahaisa Yada Kfufa. If its hand was bent, upashta, and it stretched it out, v'hadar kaifa, and then it brings it back, because the Mishnah says bent and stretched out is no good. I would have understood that you have to bring it back. So that's two motions, stretching out and bringing back. Aval pshuta v'kafafasa, but if it was stretched out at the beginning and it just did one motion of bringing it back, loy, I would have said no. So Kamash Malan, Rav Anan tells us in the name of Shmuel that even one motion, as long as it's that motion of flexing inward, so that would be considered a proof that it was alive by the shechita. Okay. Meisvei. The Gemara is a question, and this is based on a statement of Rav.
It's not totally correct what you said.
Muscles remain in the contracted state until ATP binds to myosin, releasing the myosin.
This is finally, but initially it could be just intro.
What does that mean? Rigor
Rigor
mortis
mortis is like after a body's dead, when it's dead. So what it's saying, you can initially see the muscles like this, but then eventually as
it will release.
releases, then it's like
Right, that's what
that.
happens to
So
big
that's
guys.
what the Gemara says.
That's
That's
what we were saying.
The Gemara is saying that if it just
Yeah, but I
releases
wasn't sure if
outward,
that's what he was saying.
yeah, if the Gemara says that if it just releases outward, so then that's not a proof. It has to actually flex inward to show that it was alive.
Perfect.
Okay, so based on the statement of Rav, that if an animal either lows is the word, it lows, or it moves its bowels, or releases its bowels, or it wiggles its ear, that would be a sign, a pirkus, a convulsion, that would be a sign that it was alive. The Gemara is a questioner. Meisvei. By the way, the term meisvei, it has the root of tuv, which means to return, which is shuv, a retort. But meisvei is always when it doesn't say who's asking the question. Masiv is when it says the name of the person asking. And eisvei is always both people, the person asking and the person being asked. Meisvei is always like anonymously. The whole thing is anonymous. Somewhere in the yeshiva they asked this question. Meisvei, they asked the question. Rabbi Yosi Aimer. Rabbi Yosi says, Hiya Rabbi Meir Aimer. Rabbi Meir would say, Gua b'shas shchita. Rabbi Meir would say, here. If it makes a sound at the time of the shchita, ain't a pirchas. That's not considered a convulsion. Okay. Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yosi Aimer Mishmai Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi says in the name of Reb Meir, afilu iti arei, even if it moves its bowels, v'kishkisha biznava, and it wags its tail, ain't a pirkus. It's not a good pirkus. So we have kasha gua gua. It's a kasha on Rav from the mooing sound, because Rav said that is good, and here we have Reb Meir saying it's not good. Kasha rei arei, because Rav said that was good, that was considered pirkus, and here we have Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi. It's actually mishmai. I said in the name of Reb Meir. It's actually Rashi tells us the name of Rabbi Yosi. That he says Rabbi Yosi says that it's not good.
And again, this is all to determine if it was alive
Right.
before the shkita.
Right.
I'm wagging its tail.
Right. If you have the chart, what we're looking at are the students of Rabbi Akiva. So you have Rabbi Meir. The Rabbi Akiva is the center of the first chart. So you have Rabbi Yosi is in right on beneath Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yosi. Whenever the Gemara says Rabbi Yosi, it's always Rabbi Yosi ben Chalafta. So he's saying in the name of that. He's saying that Reb Meir would say, which is interesting. Rabbi Yosi saying that Reb Meir would say, and then we have Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi, which over here they only have Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi. They don't put Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi, but he's saying in the name of Reb Meir. So Rabbi Yosi's statement was that the gua doesn't, the mooing sound isn't satisfactory, and Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi's statement in the name of Rabbi Yosi, not in the name of Reb Meir, in the name of Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi isn't here, but it would be next to Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi. He says in the name of his father that the releasing its bowels isn't a good sign. So Gemara answers, gua gua like kasha. The mooing sound is not a problem. Hada avikali, hada amikali. It depends on its strength. When did Rav say that it's satisfactory? That's when it's a strong mooing sound. But if it's a muted sound, so that's not counted. And that's what he's referring to here in the name of Reb Meir. Rei nami like kasha. And the releasing its bowels is also not a problem. Kan b'sheiseses, kan b'matrezes. One is if it trickles out, and one is if it comes out with force. So then that would be satisfactory that it was alive. All right.
What about wagging its tail? It didn't bring that.
Well, that wasn't a contradiction. We had Rav said Ozna, the ear, and here it was the tail. So that the Gemara didn't bother with that.
Because it is here brought up here. But
Yeah, but that's Ozna.
Oh. I see.
Does your commentary mention?
No, I thought it was the same as the tail.
Doctor, question.
I don't know.
The chemical changes that a mammal undergoes when it dies, are these typically the simonim that you would expect to see, given the chemical changes?
That's what I just showed.
The muscles, the muscle part.
But the rest of these things, the defecation, the movement of this or
But
that,
that's all due to relaxation of muscles. It's like when you do it to horror, a lot of times.
The
you
Mishnah
see
says
that,
it.
And lahabdil, when a woman has
So here.
a baby,
Also, it argues on the
she
mission.
may push out, push out whatever's there. So it's a matter
No,
of whether
it's not the problem on
active,
Rav. I
whether
guess
muscles
we're
relax, or
directing it
whatever's
to
there
Rav.
come out. I guess that's what kind of the discussion is, whether it's a passive action or an active action.
Right.
and it must be an issue of time, of how long it takes. That's really what we're testing then. If it's common to all animals when they die, the question is how long it
I
takes.
gotta be honest, for 40 years I've been a good doctor. Usually I'm there while they're alive. I'm not the pathologist to tell you.
What's it called? What's the name of?
Rigor mortis.
No. Is there a different doctor that determines if they're dead?
The mortician,
The mortician.
the pathologist,
Mortician.
medical
Okay.
examiner.
So Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says Pirkes Shamru b'Seif Shchita. When we say it needs to has to have convulsions, that's referring to the end of the Shchita. My b'Seif Shchita. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to explain this differently. Rav Chisda doesn't just say this. Rav Chisda says, should I show you Rav Chisda? He's beneath Rav on the second page. So you would have Rav, Rav Huna, and Rav Chisda. And the other, there's Tanoim and Amirayim. That's the right one.
Yeah.
So Rav Chisda is there. He's the father-in-law of Rava. So and the teacher of Rava. He's a Kayan, which makes sense because he's Chesed. So Rav Chisda says that they said that there's pirchos, the convulsions, that need to be by a sick animal after the shechita, at the end of the shechita, it doesn't really mean at the end of the shechita. What it means is, my b'seif shechita be'emtza shechita. It means in the middle of the shechita. So why they say at the end of the shechita? La'afuki tchila shechita dulai. It means not at the beginning. The beginning doesn't count. In other words, what he's saying is that it needs to live through the middle of the shechita. And that's where we need to see the convulsions. If it would be at the beginning of the shechita, so it lived at the beginning, but it didn't live through the shechita, so that's not counted.
Second. How long does it take? It's a second. The shechita.
It depends. It depends. We have said the guy with the lousy knife could be shechting all day. Remember, the sheikh b'sakin ra is there. It's like those some challah knives on the on the zak spread. You know. It could take all day. Okay, it could take several seconds. That's it. Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, "Mina aminala." How do we know this? That it's really, when it says the end of the shechita, that it really means the middle. The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. Our Mishnah. You see two nuns. It's a Mishnah. Behem adaka shepashta yada. A small animal that stretched out his hand, but it didn't return it. That means the outward motion is psula. Emas. When does it do that? Eily b'seif shechita. If you say at the end of the shechita. Kol hechi techsi v'tezel. It's living so much that at the end of the shechita, it's still relaxing its muscles. It means it was alive throughout the shechita. That should be enough. Elalav. It must be b'emtza shechita. When do we say that that's not enough? If it did it in the middle of the shechita, that's why it's not enough. Amalei Rava says, Li'olam b'seif shechita. No. Really, it's referring to the end of the shechita. And Shani Yomer, and because we say, or I say, Kol she'eino isakim b'seif shechita, if it doesn't do this at the end of the shechita, b'yadua shenishmasa netula himena kaidem lachein. That means that it was dead already before. It's Rava's understanding that this takes place after it dies. So therefore, if it doesn't do it at the end, it really needs to be happening at the end. And if it only does one motion at the end, that means it was already dead from previously. Rav Nachman bar Rav Yitzchak Amar Pircha Shama B'tchila Shchita. So now we have three opinions. We have Rav Chisda that says the middle, Rava says the end, and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak who says that it's
good enough.
That it's the beginning. Now it's actually three generations here, because you have Rav Chisda, Rava, and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak is put as a student of Rava, so it goes down. You see that?
Rav Chisda he was a teacher of Rabbi.
Yeah.
So they could all argue with each other, no problem?
Yeah, they do. They do. You know, we always say that the Amirayim can't argue with the Tanaim, but Rebbe Chanan Wasserman in the Kaivetz Aris on Yevamis, he writes, it's not that they're not able to argue. They are able to argue. They just don't for whatever reason. But they are able to say whatever their understanding is or whatever. So.
I mean, the Gemara says specifically on Rav Tana Pali.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Right. So that's interesting. But not actually. The interesting thing is not everyone holds of it. I forget which Amoira claims that Rav Tano Palig. It could be Rav Yochanan didn't hold that. They learn it because they ask a question on Rav and there's a response that Rav Tano Palig. But it could be the other opinion doesn't hold that Rav Tana. The Rav is like in that middle zone. Okay. So Menachem bar Yitzchak says that the pirchas could be at the beginning of the shechita as well, and that would be enough for a sick animal, that would show that the animal was actually alive. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Mina Aminallah. From where do I say this? How do I know this? What's my proof? The Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. Again, it's our Mishnah. Amar Rav Elazar. Amar Rav Shimon, I'm sorry. Hasheichet balayla. Shimon said, if someone shechs by night, ulamacha matzah ksalim malayim dam, and in the morning, in the next day, he finds that the wall is full of blood. We're going to explain what the wall means, but it doesn't mean the wall on the building. Ksheira, that's good. Shezinka, because it spurted blood. Ukamidus Rabbi Elazar, like Rabbi Elazar says that Rabbi Eliezer, which had switched it to, that it's because Rabbi Eliezer says if it spurts blood by the shechita, then that's enough to show us that it was alive at the shechita. So Va'amar Shmuel, and Shmuel says, Kaisli Beis HaShechita Shaninu. When we said Kaisli or Ksalim, that the wall is full of blood.
Does that mean if it didn't split blood, then it's a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it was sick.
We had a Mishnah a few blot ago about exactly this issue.
Yeah, and we're quoting that now. We're quoting that Mishnah. The Mishnah said that it's a page back. A page back. It says that if there's a sick animal and you shecht it by night, but in the next day you see that there's.
I'm talking about with the Mishnah.
With the blood not
Alam
coming out.
Gimel.
Oh, with no blood.
Yeah.
Oh, with no blood.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had a whole discussion
Okay, that would be a
there.
problem. That would definitely be a problem if the animal was sick. You would need other signs. Here we're dealing with the sick animal. If the animal's healthy, you don't need any signs. It was running around and all of that. So, Shmuel tells us that we're talking about the wall of the Bais HaShechita. That means the neck, which is full of blood. Now, if we say that it doesn't matter even at the beginning of the slaughtering, that's also good enough. Shapir, then fine. But if we say that it needs to come out at the end of the shechita, when are you going to check the animal to see if the blood was there? The next day. We should suspect that maybe it didn't come out at the end, maybe it came out at the beginning. How do you check the next day? So what the Gemara is saying is like this. If I say it's the wall behind the sheichet, and it's the beginning of it needs to be at the end of the shechita. So I would say, well, where is it going to spurt? Well, at the beginning of the shechita, it's going to spurt higher. It's going to make its way down throughout the shechita. So I would check on the bottom. Did it spurt at the bottom of the wall? There's nothing there. It could be it's a problem. Or I can check. It is there. I'm sure it's fine. But if I say that it's not spurting somewhere else, it's the actual neck of the animal, I have no way of knowing when the neck got covered in blood. No, it's possible you shecht it and there's no blood on the neck. There's just a trickling by the veins. But if the neck is full of blood, so then that's a sign that it was alive by the shechita. But if it needs to be at a certain time of the shechita that the blood needs to spurt out, how are you going to know that the next day? There's no way. There's no camera. You're just looking at what remains. So the Gemara says, "V'dil mashani zinak da'adif." The Gemara says, you see, what happened was we switched topics here. We were talking about when it needs to move the arm. Does it need to do that at the beginning of the shechita, the middle of the shechita, the end of the shechita? The end of the shechita would for sure be good. The middle of the shechita was according to Rav Chisda, and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said even at the beginning was good. So we're trying to bring a proof that it doesn't matter when. Any time in the shechita is good, even at the beginning, from the blood spurting. The Gemara says maybe the blood spurting is a sign that is valid even at the beginning of the shechita, because that's a very strong sign that it has a lot of life in it. But the moving of the arm is not a good enough sign, so that needs to be at specific times. In other words, we're going to make a distinction between these different types of convulsions, whether if it's the moving of the arm or if it's the spurting of blood. The spurting of blood doesn't matter. The Gemara says, "Umi adif," is that a better sign? But it was taught in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer Eimer, Daya im zinka. It's enough if it spurts. Emphasis on the daya. It's enough means that it's a weaker sign. So the Gemara says, well, that could be Kal midir Rabban Gamliel. You see, if you notice, the three opinions here were Rabbi Gamliel. We switched Rabbi Shimon Gamliel for Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel. Then comes Rabbi Eliezer, and then comes the Chachamim. Rabbi Gamliel says it needs to do both, the hand and the foot.
He has to move his
Mr.
hand and
Kush.
its foot.
He's very strict. The Chachamim at the end say either the hand or the foot. And Rabbi Eliezer in the middle says it's enough if it spurts blood. So it's enough doesn't mean it's enough that is more lenient than the rabbis. It's enough means he's more lenient than Rabbi Gamliel. But he's more strict than the rabbis. So then we lose our answer. It must be if he's more strict than the rabbis, and nevertheless, it doesn't matter which time it is, it's a proof to Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak.
Which one got a bird or a cow?
We're assuming that it's an animal because there's a hand and a foot and there's a foreleg and a.
Because then I was going to ask you if it's a bird, do we have to look at the wing and the
We're gonna on the next page we're gonna discuss the bird, but our Mishnah didn't tell us that. You're in the right seat. Okay, Amar Ravina. Ravina is the end of the Gemara. There are scholars that say that the Gemara always works in layers. That it's Rivadim they call it. That the Mishnah starts and then you have the first generation and then it continues down its way down, and now we're at the end. Ravina is really on the bottom.
There's two Ravinas.
It says two Ravinas, but either way, it's either a friend of Ravashi or a student. An Amirai Bavel. It's the end of the Talmudic period. So Ravina says, Amali Sama Bar Chilkia, that Sama Bar Chilkia said to me that Akshiba Avua Debar Avuvram, that the father of the son of Avuvram, which is of course Avuvram, the father of the son of Avuvram, right? So,
Obviously, Abu was a big Talmud Chacham.
actually, it's interesting.
His father, usually you get
Right.
honor from the father. Here you got
Right.
honor from the son.
But the interesting thing is that Rashi doesn't say it like that. Rashi says that we don't really know Avuvram. We only know the son. That's why when we talk about the father of Avuvram, we're familiar with the son. The father of the son. We're familiar with the son. The son is one of the yeshiva people,
Right,
it must
it's
be.
like the father Ben
His father was probably not so involved. We're not familiar with him. But the father of, so when we want to talk about, he probably didn't have smicha of Bar Avuvram. So he's
Like
called by
the
his,
father Ben Azai.
Right. Right, Avuvram Atzmai. So now we're back to the father.
So the son was more chashuv than
The son was more
father, so
chashuv.
he's identified
Right,
as.
right. I missed an important point before. Talking about the names, I missed an important point that I don't want to go by. Before we said Rav said something, and Shmuel asked the students of Rav, what does Rav hold? So Shmuel responds, Abba requires this. I translate it as Rav. There's actually a machlekes here. Rashi says that his name was.
No, his name was Rav, but he called him Abba for covered.
Rashi says that he called him Abba out of respect, but his name was actually Rav. The Aruch says the opposite, that his name was Abba, and they called him Rav out of kavod. They're two respectable titles, either Abba or Rav. The question is which one was his actual name and which one was the honorary title.
What is Aricha?
Aricha means tall, and there is one place in the Talmud where Rabbi Yochanan asked someone who's in Bavel, and he said there's something. Someone asked, he said Abba Aricha, the tall Abba. So, yeah, there's descriptions here of people's.
Did Rabbi Yochanan and Rav meet?
When they were younger.
By Rabbi
By Rabbi Danas, yeah. Yeah, Rabbi Yochanan praised him like that. I think he never met
Yochanan
Shmuel.
did go to Rabbi Yochanan?
They must have been when they were young. We'll see that later. It's a Gemara in Chullin.
There's apparently other Rav Abbas all
Yes.
over this place.
Yeah. Okay, so what is this question from the father of the father of the son of Avram? Va'amila achva debar of Avram, and some say that it was the brother of Bar of Avram. It sounds like he's also a Bar of Avram, but maybe not.
He was only a brother.
Yeah, but if he's the brother, how is he a brother if it's not his father?
They didn't
Unless
take
maybe.
away from Bar Avram his.
Okay.
There's the famous bar. The
Huh?
famous bar.
Famous Bar of Avram, and then there's his brother. Yeah, Junior. Okay, the Gemara says, he asks, Umi de Rabbanan miyadif? Is the spurting of the blood more strict than the rabbis? V'hatanan, but it says in the Mishnah, V'chachamim maimrim, the Chachamim say, Ad shetiparches oy biyadei beregel, until it moves either the hand or the foot. Now the question is that word until. Until that makes it sound like it's not enough what we said before. It needs to do something extra. Rabbanan nahei kaimu. Who are the Rabbanan referring to? Eily ma de Rabban Gamliel. You see, isn't that great? It's not Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. It's Rabban Gamliel. We had in the Mishnah, it wasn't clear. So if we say it's referring to Rabban Gamliel, Kivan shepir chasam Eily, it should say Kevan. It should say since it moved. Doesn't have to, as long as it moved. It doesn't have to say until it moved the hand and the foot. The word should have been because it moved the hand and foot. That's enough.
You don't need both.
You
You
don't need both. Just one, either the hand or the foot. Rather, it's obvious. Ad Rabbi Eliezer. It's referring to Rabbi Eliezer. Now, v'i adif. But if it's better than Rabbi Eliezer,
The spurting of the blood.
it's right. If the moving of the hand is more of a sign than the spurting of the blood, my ad. So what does it mean until? So what is this hay? Oh, the hay switches. So basically, we're left off over here that we have a proof for Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak, where Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak said that it's enough at the beginning of the Shechita, and you can't say that this is better than that by the blood spurting is a different sort of sign than the moving of the hand or the foot, because the Chachamim are being more strict. They're saying until that's not enough. It needs to move until it moves the hand and the foot. It's not enough. It means this is less of a sign, the spurting of the blood. And nevertheless, it doesn't matter if it's at the beginning, the middle, or the end, because when you check it the next day, it's fine. So it doesn't matter